friends. We're going to be working on a craft today that reminds us of the story we read, The Quiltmaker's Gift. And it also is going to remind us of this beautiful quilt that Miss Chris has shared with us. You'll notice most quilts use repeated patterns throughout them in squares or blocks. Like you've got the patterned square here, you've got the greenish squares here, you've got this gorgeous houndstooth pattern there. So we're going to be making a single block that would be repeated in a quilt. Let's see what's in our craft bag. All right, let's see what's in our bag this week. You should have a rolled up piece of black fabric, some fabric glue, a small paintbrush, some Portfolio Series water-soluble oil pastels. That sounds pretty cool. And one other little thing down in there is a nice pencil. We'll be using these to make our quilt. Let's get started. So I've taken the rubber band off of my black fabric and I'm going to unroll it. And you'll find there's some little pieces of fabric inside. So essentially our black fabric is going to serve as a background for a quilt, which I think is pretty cool because quilting involves layers of fabric. So we'll be doing a work of art that's layers of fabric today. We'll be putting on some triangles. You should have 4 of these included. Some sort of trapezoid shapes, and you should have 4 of those. And then you're going to have 1 square that's going to go in the middle. So what we'll end up doing, I've got one partially completed to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, is I've already assembled the center square, and then I've put on 1 trapezoid and a triangle and another trapezoid, and I've got a few more pieces already colored. And what I've done, you'll notice that my trapezoids all look just alike. See if I do this right. Hold on. There we go. And my triangles all match as well. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do today as we're making our quilt. And I still have 1 trapezoid and 1 triangle to color. And that's how I'm going to show you about how these colors work. It's going to be fun. So go get yourself a little bit of water. I think I've got mine sitting over there. And we'll get started coloring. Before we have something to color, it helps to have a little sketch of something to fill in the colors with. So I'm going to start with my center block. And I'm going to think of something that is truly a treasure to me. In my case, the one I've done already, it's a car that I own, a 1967 car. And you'll see in my pattern that I included some references to that. But right now, I'm going to think of another thing that's a treasure to me. So I've been trying to think of a treasure that I have, much like the king in our story, although he had many treasures. But one thing I would really have trouble giving up is my cell phone. So my center square of my quilt, I'm going to draw a cell phone. So I want to keep it very simple because we're going to be using big fat colors, but I still want it to say cell phone, at least to me. So I'm going to draw this big rectangular cell phone. Maybe I'll even have a little edge to it. And it's okay if you're kind of messy with your pencil because our colors will fill in for us and cover up any mistakes we make. And hey, there are no mistakes in art, right? Let's say this is an iPhone. It's going to have the little notch, right? And it's going to have a few apps on it. Let's put a few apps on here. Like that. And how about an on-off button? I don't know if it actually has one there, but that's just sort of to help me. And then it's going to have a charging wire, because if it's not charged up, It's not much good to me. So there, that's my cell phone. Now, for my other patterns that are going to go around the cell phone on my quilt, I need to do something really simple because I'm going to have to repeat this pattern 4 times and this pattern 4 times. So I'm going to do like a sound wave here. Very simple colors, but it's going to be a sound kind of spreading out because cell phones are all about taking sounds and images and broadcasting them to another person. So I'm going to repeat that pattern 4 times. And then on my triangle, well, one thing I use my cell phone a lot is to watch Netflix. Do you ever watch cartoons or something on Netflix? I love Netflix. So to help me remember Netflix, I think I'll do the big letter N. So let's see, because that always starts a Netflix show. So something like that, something that I can kind of repeat 4 times. So let me get busy repeating my images, and then we can get coloring, which is the really fun part. Check back in a second. All right, so now I've got 4 trapezoid shapes with the same pattern on it, 4 triangle shapes with my N on it, and my cell phone square that'll go in the middle. So right now I'm going to put these aside and show you how these oil pastels work on my other drawing that I've got, my other quilt block that I'm making. So let me get my pastels out. There's several ways you can use these. Let me find my little paintbrush. Oh, Miss Lee, you're so messy. There it is. It was hiding. Okay. Get you some water. And these are being colored in a blue and a green. So what I'm going to do is just color in the 6 because my car is a 67. And you see the pencil lines that define the triangle? That's actually what we're going to cut along in a few minutes. So you don't really have to go past that pencil mark, but as you can see, I'm going to. So that's one way you can color with these. And again, I'm going to be coloring this 67 to match this 67. So it's got a dark blue, a light blue, and a bright green. There's the light blue. But the other thing I want to show you is how you can use water with these incredible bright pigments to blend your colors. So let me get this other trapezoid shape that I've already. Now you may be wondering why, if a car is my treasure, why do I have this checkerboard of red colors? Well, this particular 67 car has a tail light that is a sequence of 3 reds that blink on. And so this checkerboard sort of reminds me of that. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to wet a square here with my paintbrush. Get it good and wet there. And I'm going to take one of my oil pastels. And I don't know if you can see, but the water in this piece of muslin fabric is loving that color. It is just super saturated. And now I'm coloring on top of it with a little bit of purple. I'm going to add a little more water and you can kind of smear it together. Isn't that fun? Another thing you can do if you want to is go ahead and just wet the whole piece of fabric. And I'm going to lay this on a paper towel because you can see it does bleed through when it's wet. So now my whole piece of fabric is wet. And I'm going to color the red. And the color is just so rich. And then I've got sort of an orangey red to remind me of the pattern of 3 colors. So I'm going to keep coloring for a while and let you go get some water and try out the coloring yourself. And then we'll talk about what to do with these pieces once they're dry. All right, I've just finished coloring this 67 and I wanted to show you what we'll do. If yours is wet, I'd let it dry first. This one did not get wet, so I'm just going to show you how I take the scissors. And if you need help, don't be afraid to ask somebody to help you. I'm not the best scissor cutter. But I'm going to just trim along that original pencil line that outlined the triangle. Having a little bit of extra fabric on the side helps us when we're drawing and coloring. So cut out each of your shapes, your square in the middle, and then your triangles and trapezoids. Or parallelograms, I think might be the right word for that. And now, all you have left to do is glue your square in the center. Start with that. And then what I did was line up my trapezoids around the outside. And one of the cool things about the trapezoids is their edges line up right along the edges of your square. So you can see right here. And I've included in your bag a picture description of how to go about this because it's incredibly confusing. And then we're going to take our fabric glue, there you go, and use it to glue these in place. And I've chosen to leave a little bit of black border around each of the elements I'll be gluing, just because I think it makes them look it offsets them and makes them look pretty cool. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this glue around the edges. As you can see on the car, I don't know if you see these vertical stripes here. That was the glue I put on the back of the car. And I don't really like them too much. So that's why I'm just going to glue the outside edges. And so when you're finished, you're going to have essentially one beautiful block of quilt. And if you were really ambitious, you could get more black fabric and more squares of muslin and repeat this over and over and sew it together. But I think this is pretty big for just to help us remember this book. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I sure had fun with it. And I hope you'll join us again in a couple of weeks for our next craft. Bye, guys.